How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the stream. As you can tell today, we're changing pace. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the stream. It's not just me. Tell today, we're changing pace. Everybody.
We have two Ryans today.
It's not just me. Tell today, we're
changing
pace.
Let's go. Everybody. We have two Ryans today. Hey, Chris, Nikki.
Yeah. Hey, what's up? Yeah, it's the Ryan to Ryan connection today. We have Ryan Warner is here as a guest, my first guest officially. And he's here to help me with my site. So I've been doing a lot more content lately. I've been writing a series on hooks, been posting my streams to YouTube, all that type of stuff. I'll zoom in so everybody can see this better. But yeah, when I built this latest edition of my site, it's my second Gatsby site. And yes, Ryan Harris does code, yeah, sometimes. So
and designs after today.
Yeah, that's the hope. So this is sort of what it looks like now. I built it, put it out early just so I could start posting content, and I was in the midst of a job search at the time, so it felt like it was the thing to do. But as you can tell, like, it doesn't look that great, Ryan. And
yeah, we could definitely make this better.
Like, I think the mobile looks okay, except like overlapping stuff in the header, and like this looks all right. But yeah, I think we can do better. So yeah, I was hoping you could help me with that. Primarily, we had some discussions earlier around sort of like what I was hoping to do. So we'll walk through them piece by piece, and I have some notes in my Notion that I'll pull up. And
that sounds great.
We can take a look at those as a reference. So
yeah, let's get started. So my goal today is to kick off the rebrand and the redesign. We will not finish, I guarantee it, not in the 2-hour time slot. But we will break the ice and kind of establish some patterns for you to continue working on the design on your own. Or you could hit me up in DMs. But sometimes getting started is difficult. If you're not familiar or practiced in design, it's like hard to know, okay, where do I start? I've got this blank canvas. I don't know what to do. So we're going to break the ice on that and get you going. So
dope.
To start, let's set up some Figma pages.
Cool. So what you see here is Ryan and I are in a Figma document that I created, and we're shared. So you should be able to see, I can see you on the OBS preview. You can see his mouse moving around. So we're both going to be working in here probably for a bit of the time, and maybe going back for reference to the contemporary site. So yeah, Ryan, let's start out with some documents, and then as we go, maybe we can bring in some of the influence stuff that I sent you previously, and sort of folks can get an idea of sort of where you started ideating with my disparate notes, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So when I kick off a new project, like a greenfield project in Figma, I like to start by setting up a few pages. And for me personally, this pattern of pages kind of always works. So I start with a main page. And if you go to the top left, you should see a pages drop down.
Pages.
Where it says page 1. And I should mention Ryan Harris is going to be driving tonight. So I'm just going to be the backseat driver.
And
cool.
Ben's in chat saying that the screen is a little fuzzy. Ben, are you talking about the Figma or just in general?
It is a little small.
Figma? Yeah. Let me.
Figma. Yeah.
So we can blow up the document itself. I'm not sure if I can control how the the zoom of these controls and stuff would look in the UI. Like doing zoom plus is zooming the document, but not the UI itself. So Ben, as we start building, I think you'll be able to see it more easily, unless there's some sort of zoom here.
It is possible that in OBS the input or output resolution isn't correct. Hey James.
Hey.
How's it going?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that it is set to 1280 by 720. Let's double check that real quick. I just had to set up this system again. Yeah, so it's 1280 by 720 is the base canvas and the output, so it should be the same. So I think, Ben, it might be just my monitor resolution is crazy high. So maybe if I just change that. Is that going to throw everything off, Ryan? You think if I change my resolution?
Let's try it out. I do have the stream up and like maximized on my screen, and I can't really read any of the text. So I think it would be worth
Ooh,
just
wow.
testing.
There you go. So it cropped it. So let's do a little. Here, I'll do a live rescale. Ooh. Actually, I can't. That's a bad idea. I'm going to undo what I just did. And now my desktop disappeared. Cool. We're off to a good start here, Ryan.
We're doing it live. It's all good.
Yeah. Properties. Display one. Yes. Do you see my...
Ryan Harris's other computer is in the shop right now. So
yes, absolutely. Hey, what's up, James? So I guess, Ryan, do you see my screen anymore, or is it completely gone?
it is gone. There's probably a little bit of a delay. It's still gone.
Okay, here I go. I got an idea. Since it's already gone, I'm just going to add a new layer right here, live. Just call it. Oh, interesting. Now the displays aren't coming up for my my second screen.
Good call, though, Landon BR. It was
Yes.
definitely really hard to see what was going on.
All right.
Hopefully we can fix it.
Yeah, I
But
think we
if
can.
not, I think we should just power through anyways.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. I think I got it. This is one of those things where I think of Mr. Robert Tables was talking about how some of the best improvements you can make for your stream is not even the technical stuff. It's just small things like zooming, cropping.
This is looking better, I think.
Is that looking better?
I can read the interface now.
That's great. Cool. All right, let's close the display stuff.
Ben says it looks better.
Okay, cool, Ben. Sorry about that. Thanks for the recommendation, though. Definitely want to make sure everybody can see what they're looking at. Wow, everything's huge for me, but let's go.
Yeah, it's definitely tough to work in Figma and stream because of the real estate that you lose
Yeah.
at these bigger resolutions.
Cool.
Okay, so we are making pages.
So we have one page. I just made a second by accident. So we want to use page one, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so let's name page one main or website, something like that. This is like where we'll be working primarily,
So is this like the
doing our
umbrella?
design work.
Is this like the umbrella for other pages, or is each page a set like a home, an about, like that type of page? Sort of like how the routes. Is it sort of like equivalent to the routes, I guess?
We'll probably have all the routes on this one page for now because it's just a blog and it's not a giant application. I think we'll be okay with that. So let's add another page.
Cool.
Main, that works. So for my second page, I usually do assets. And this page I use for things like OG image or maybe a Twitch profile image or YouTube cover photo, things like that. Things that get exported for third-party platforms.
Cool.
All right. Third page will be inspiration. So you mentioned earlier that you put together some inspiration, and we're going to, after we set up our page structure, we're going to go grab some of that inspiration and bring it right into Figma.
Cool.
But for now, let's just get our page set up. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I got a main and assets, and you said the third one would be what?
Inspiration.
Inspiration. And so this is sort of like where you're saying you import things that you are literally using for inspiration, just have them in here. So like sort of what you were doing on one of the previous streams where you were like aligning somebody's inspiration with their current layout, that type of idea.
Yep, exactly.
Cool.
Okay, so 2 more pages I like to have. The next one would be style guide. And the style guide page will handle things like we could do a color palette here. We could do some reusable components in the style guide. And then lastly, archive. And archive is really nice because there's no rules to it. It can be anything. You can just dump stuff in here. You know, you make a design and you hate it, but you don't want to delete it. So I just cut and paste into the archive, and this can be as messy as we want.
Cool. Yeah, that's much more organized than many of my projects, as in all of them.
Awesome. Cool. And I find this scales pretty well. And if it doesn't, we can always adjust. So next, the inspiration. You gave me some inspiration,
I did.
but let's bring some of that directly in here. I have some of your inspiration in my Notion.
Okay. Which, and I know I sent you a couple. Which I know you didn't end up using all of them, so we can look at just a couple if you want.
Yeah, I'm gonna find a link. You gave me a link to the space tourism posters. I think that's a cool
Oh
one.
yeah, yes. Let's see.
So I'll link that in the chat.
In the chat, perfect. Thank you. Cool.
Yeah, and there were a couple. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, background on this. I'm sure a lot of people in the chat may have seen these, but NASA put out these like really, really cool posters. It's a full series. The style, I wouldn't say, is like completely the same throughout, but there's some really cool aesthetics here that I like. So I just sort of sent this to Ryan and identified the ones that I like the best.
Yeah, and inspiration doesn't have to be like other blogs. Like, yes, we're building a blog and a portfolio here, but inspiration can be anything from color to design to typography. Yes, we're definitely going to pull in some blog inspiration too, but I always like seeing what kind of art people like and get inspired by. So let's pull a couple, 2, maybe 3 posters here that stand out to you. I think you mentioned in Discord that you liked the Grand Tour and some other ones, but anything works. Anything stand out to you?
I think these 2 are the 2 that I like the most, the Mars and the Grand Tour. So
cool. Let's grab those and bring them right into Figma.
Would be the PDF
James says
too big?
Doesn't really matter what kind of resolution we're working with. If you want to just grab the thumbnails, that's fine. James says, I like the structure of the different pages. I wasn't intentional about it, but he has a similar breakdown.
Oh, nice.
Cool. I'm curious what differs.
So it doesn't look like these. Where'd they go? Maybe I have to actually save it.
Or you can copy and paste, I think. Like right-click, copy image.
Oh, yeah, copy image, paste it. Perfect. Look at that.
Or save as. Either one will work.
TIL.
There we go.
Okay, that's one of them. I'm going to copy this one.
These posters are lit. Yes, I agree. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, that Zach. My wife and I have been talking about getting some of these printed for the house, but they got so popular that I think now she's worried that everyone will have them, but I sort of wouldn't mind one of these in my office. Cool. So now we have these 2 in here. They're in our Figma. You think 2's enough here, Ryan? Or should I pull in one more?
I think 2's enough for these posters, but I do want to get some other inspiration in here. Okay, let's get some blogs. I don't think you linked me any blogs, but is there any on the top of your mind? I really like Kent Dodd's layout. Chris Biscardi, that's what inspired my blog. So I like to grab screenshots of their blog
like
directly.
The full size, like where you do the inspector and you can download the full image?
Yes, exactly. You can go to inspect element and then Command Shift P.
Inspect element. Command Shift P.
And then that should bring up a menu where you can type. And if you start typing screenshot.
Command Shift P. Oh, sorry. So you said open the developer tools, hit Command Shift P.
Oh, you're in Firefox? I don't know if this works in Firefox, actually.
Oh, yeah. Here, I'll open it in Chrome, actually.
Do you have Chrome? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Pause.
Yeah, thanks, Pause. All right. So we want to just save it as a PDF?
I've not done this before. This might work, but we can do the screenshot here. If you do Command Shift P while the inspector is open.
Okay, and then screenshot.
Command Shift P, then start typing screenshot, and you should see an option for full page, full size screenshot.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, and that'll take a screenshot of the whole page, including all the content below the fold, and
Cool.
save it to your downloads folder.
Yeah, that's I've done that before, but I didn't know, I was not aware of that hotkey, so that's actually super helpful. And then my downloads, as you can tell, I'm not super used to Chrome anymore.
That's okay.
Finder, and then we'll just drag this from over here.
Perfect.
Wow, look at that. Cool. And then, yeah, the other one you mentioned was Kent Dodds, right? Let's do his.
Yeah.
Oh, is this me in Firefox again? Yeah, it is. I'm actually going to just close Firefox, so I stop doing that. So, Kent Dodds.
Nikki says it works in Firefox too.
Oh, it does?
We can maybe try that out. Nikki, does that do the full page?
Huh.
So Command Shift P.
Yeah, sometimes that doesn't. I know there is there's a place in the menu to grab it. Okay, there we go. Screenshot. Capture full size screenshot. Dope. Come back into Figma. Grab this over here. Wow, look at that. Kent, with all that content.
Nice. Is there any other sites or blogs that on your mind?
Oh yeah, I think the other one I linked to you was The Verge. I just like their color palette quite a bit, and I also
cool. Let's bring that in.
They do. They don't do it as much anymore. They used to do these really these cool gradient overlays like pretty much everywhere on hover, which I actually sort of liked, but looks like they've sort of done away with some of that. Command Shift P, screenshot, boom, and then let's bring that into. Okay, there we go. That one took a little while, I think, just because the page is so big. There we go. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it looks like at least the top part is formatted properly. Some of the rest of it, probably just,
Oh, that's interesting.
Ads everywhere.
Yeah, got a little messed up. That's okay. I think we have some great reference material here.
Yeah, these are dope. Cool. And if anybody's in the chat, if you want me to zoom in or anything, I'll just make that full screen for now so you can see it more easily, but I'm happy to zoom as needed. So.
All right, so we got our basic structure for our page layouts. We've got some inspiration, some reference material to work from. I think it's time we can start designing your blog. So the next place I would go is the main page, that first page that we set up, and create a frame. So the frame symbol is top left.
This one?
So like hash.
Yeah, and then there's all these presets, right, in terms of like desktop, phone, tablet. And should we start with mobile?
I actually prefer to start with desktop. It wouldn't be wrong to start with mobile. My Figma file is actually open source and there is no mobile design. I kind of did it in code after the fact, and that's just the way I work. Some people work back, or the opposite of that, and start with mobile and go big. But because that's what I'm comfortable with, I think we should start there for now.
Okay, I'm cool with that. And do you think MacBook Pro, MacBook, desktop, any of these, do you prefer?
I usually do desktop to start with.
Cool. And so this gives us now a frame that is the size of a 1440 by 1024 viewport. So good place to start in terms of reasonable screen real estate.
Exactly. So we don't know exactly where we're going to go with font or aesthetics or color yet. Mm-hmm. We have some inspiration that we will end up drawing from, but let's start with what we do know. And there are some things that we know. We know the content, roughly what kind of content we want, or you want on your blog. You gave me a nice readout of the different pages and routes and some of the content. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So we could kind of brain dump some of this stuff that we already know just right onto the page.
Okay. You mean just brain dump it in just like you just copy and paste text right in there?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, cool. Then I'll do the text layer. Can blow that up a little bit.
So we can paste this in just like you're doing and kind of move it maybe off the frame to the side.
There you go. Cool. And so, yeah.
And now from here, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just quickly describe. So currently, what I have, I think we saw here, was that my main page is essentially my blog role, which I don't think is necessarily the best use. So I have about, blog, talks, and uses. And what Ryan and I were talking about previously was I want to keep the blog, I want to keep the uses. The about and the talks I'm not too set on. So what we were thinking was sort of like a home page that has all of these different feeds or pieces of content to point to the content I'm creating and putting on different sources. And then the articles and uses would remain. So blog would now be articles. And then I also plan on adding this like notes or tips section for smaller stuff. So that's the general restructure, is that it'll still be 4 routes, but they'll just be structured differently.
Cool. That's a good explanation. And yeah, I'm on board with that. I think this is heading in the right direction. Looking at your blog reminded me we should pull that in to your inspiration.
Yes, cool.
Let's take a screenshot of your index route. Yeah, this one.
And I'll bring this in inspiration. I really like this idea of having this inspiration page. Not being a designer, I definitely use things for inspiration, but having it right alongside where you're working definitely seems like a good practice.
Yeah, absolutely. I started doing it kind of out of frustration of like knowing what my inspiration was, but then having to leave my design software and remember the URL and go there and then like tabbing back and forth.
Well, one thing already I can see based on side by side is like, look at all this dead space I have, whereas these other sites that I really like their aesthetic, they're not doing that. So clearly this was a misstep, I think we could say.
Yeah, that's a good point. Although when you scroll, is your left side sticky?
Let's see. I forget. Yes, it is. Yeah. Originally it wasn't, but then I made it sticky.
Cool. So it's not quite as dead as that screenshot makes it seem. But that being said, we could look at a more like horizontal navigation type layout and see if that maybe works better.
Yeah, that's sort of what I saw at the mobile. I sort of did that. And then part of the reason I wanted to do this stream just and get you on here with your expertise in general is because I kept looking at the mobile on my phone thinking this looks way better than a desktop site. So clearly something's amiss.
Cool. So yeah, let's use that as our next step. Let's make some navigation.
Cool. So do that in the main here.
Exactly. And so we know what pages we want to be in the navigation. So we can just kind of start barfing those on the page. It doesn't matter if it looks good. Just kind of get them on there. I kind of think of this step as if similar to doing a puzzle. If you've ever done a puzzle in real life, where you kind of spread the pieces on the table first before and like flip them over and make sure they're not overlapping before you start putting them together. So this is us getting those puzzle pieces on the table.
All right, there we go. So home, articles. Like I said, I'm also going to do a tips or tricks, whatever you want to call it. I'll just call it tips for now for simplicity. And then the other one is my uses page. So
Nikki says he likes the side nav on desktop. With that said, he opted not to do it himself. I think it kind of depends on what the site is, but it also is somewhat personal preference.
Okay. I actually lost my Twitch chat when I switched over to Chrome. So if anybody, I'm looking at the OBS preview, so I'll see chat in there. Okay, cool. So I have my menu nav items here. Let me just resize these so they're a little easier to deal with. And at this point, Ryan, you're not really, like you said, you're not really going for style. You're just going for get content on the page, representation of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, what are we working with here, and how are we going to organize it?
So I'm just going to put these over here, just like generally they'll probably go somewhere there, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we kind of barfed the content on the page, and then we're cleaning it up a little bit as we go, and we'll continue to clean it up as we add more content. Cool. So I saw you dragging. We could do like a little Figma tip here. I saw you dragging those boxes to resize the text, and there's actually a way to do that.
Oh, is there? Oh, cool.
So if you click on one of the nav items on the right hand panel under the text header, there is an arrow that kind of goes both directions.
This one? Auto width?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So I guess I could select all of these, or oh no, group selects them.
I'm not sure if that'll work. We can try it though.
Let's see. I just did them individually, so.
Cool.
And then I guess should we also do something like you can sort of line them up pretty easily right here with the center, and then there's like a way to distribute them as well.
Exactly. So the one on the far right, the icon on the far right, will distribute, and we can come in and tidy this up at another time.
Yeah, but that's
yeah.
Pretty
there you
quick.
go.
Those two tricks, and you pretty much have like a nav layout. Like it's not completely styled or anything, but it's generally representative of what that will look like. That's cool.
Exactly. Cool. So let's start blocking out more sections of your homepage. I think we're going to focus on the index today. We might not get to the other pages. One thing that I noticed your site does, the index route is just the blog route.
Yes, it is.
But given that you're producing more types of content now, you've got a YouTube channel going, you're on Twitch, you're blogging, and you want to add the small tips, we could create sort of a highlights or overview page as our index route.
What's up,
so we could
Nelson?
show like latest posts. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Interacting with chat is the best part.
Yes. Yeah. So you're talking about like and for reference, we'll look at this again. So these are the notes here. So it's like for the home page, I sort of wanted to do like a bio blurb, like I said, not a full page, not a full route. And then what you're talking about in terms of article feed. So sort of like maybe the most 3 recent blog posts I put up, something like that.
Yep.
Cool.
So Chris's site does a great job of this. I think Kent Dodds also does a good job of this. If we flip back to our inspiration, we can kind of see how they do it.
Yeah, so Chris has his top 5 posts and then a link to his blog roll, which I think that makes a lot of sense. And one thing I really like, I think we talked about this, was I really like I've seen a couple people do this. I think, Ryan, you might even do this on your site where you have icons based on either tags or categories for the post.
Yep, got the idea right from Chris's site. I think it's a nice way to like visually differentiate them.
Chris, just consider this. We're just reporting an issue to you verbally. We'll send it in the snail mail to GitHub. Cool. So do you, when you block out this type of stuff, Ryan, do you do text, or do you just sort of like do a block and then let that be representative of the content that you believe is going to be going there?
I'd probably do both. Like you could do a block and then put some text right in there.
Cool. And do you get
a
to
first
the point,
stab at an
right,
H1?
Do you at this point? Do you start adding like groups and stuff as you're building these things out, or is this too early to start thinking about those types of things?
I think it's a bit too early to worry about layer naming and components and groups yet. The goal here is to kind of get a wireframe of where we're headed, like a template or a blueprint.
Okay, cool. And so one thing I see is Chris, this is pretty common, I think, where you have the nav and you have your name. Kent, however, let's double check what he has, because I think he has something similar.
Yeah, I think that screenshot might be at like a breakpoint with.
Yeah, here, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to update the screenshot, because there was a banner. Yeah, definitely breakpoint with.
Yes.
Okay,
Maybe
cool.
pop out your inspector before doing the screenshot. I'm not sure how
I think
that's
this is
working.
okay. This is okay now because we see the full nav. I think before it just happened to be the mobile view.
Sounds good. I'm just chuckling at your stream title again. Ryan and Ryan rebrand Ryan's blog. It's too good.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that's probably the best thing we've done so far on
So
this
far.
on this specific stream. Yes. So
Yes.
let's get this in here. Okay, that looks much better. Put it on the other side of mine to make it look. I'm gonna put Chris and Kent Chris and Kent right next to me, so it's just that much more apparent why we're doing this. Yeah, so I think that's something I should just add right away, right, Ryan? Just we're assuming that I'll have some sort of.
Yeah.
I put my middle initial just because there's too many Ryan Harrises in the world. I personally don't like my middle. I don't like that, so I'm just gonna do this. And there will be some sort of branding associated with this. I have another design friend who's going to help me with some graphics for the stream. So one of the things Ryan Warner and I are going to do in the future is we might revisit some of this and bring it all into relation with each other visually. So that would be another really interesting point of view to get from you, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. Working with talented illustrators always like elevates the interface design. Yeah, brings it to the next level.
Oh, James. Okay. I'm glad that I'm not the only one that needs that middle initial there for branding.
Oh yeah,
All
that's
right.
true. Do see is your middle initial a Q?
James Q. Quick. That might be double quick, maybe. Quick. So if we
Okay.
do something like this, Ryan, would you put this is like to me like a hero, right? Would you put like an about blurb here? Sort of like what Kent has. I mean, Chris has the similar thing, so it's really like the top level is sort of like the introduction to you.
Yeah, we could totally do that. Like a hero or tagline or like the one sentence pitch.
Yeah. Just placeholder text. So something like this. So this would just sit like that. And so that would be sort of like this bio blurb here. So if we are sort of taking notes, we can, I guess, strike through this. Nope,
Yeah,
no strike
sure.
through. Yeah, I'll just, whatever. There is no strike through apparently for that font. So. Okay, so this would go, this is like the first piece.
Yeah, so let's start thinking about, what is the next piece going to be? It's probably going to be some sort of highlight or latest of some piece of content. But what piece of content should that be? Should that be blog posts? Should that be YouTube videos?
Yeah,
What do you think?
so primarily right now my primary content medium has been written articles. So I think for now that's probably going to be my primary type or category of content. However, the streams are picking up. I'm doing them more consistently on a Friday. So to me, it's like the articles and the streams would be the top level. And that's why I have YouTube feed in here, is because I do upload these videos to YouTube since I can't get the 60-day video on demand on Twitch.
Right.
So I'm thinking to me they would be almost equal in terms of priority in the hierarchy. So would it be strange to try to do something like a half and half where you sort of have one and the other?
At this really wide width that we're working with, it's going to be okay, but we're probably going to run into issues at smaller widths. And we might even want to do a max width and cap this, because you are working with the full 1440 right now. But if you take a look at some of your inspiration, like Chris's site, for example, it kind of caps at a around like 800 or 1,000 pixels.
Yeah,
So
or
we might
like
need
I
to think about ordering this.
yeah, let's see. Let's see what Kent has for. He probably has some sort of max width set
Yeah, there's
here.
a max width there too.
So he's got the section, the header. Yeah. So the content
I mean, even
here is only really 8. He has a max width of 800 set.
right. So you could go a little bit bigger than that and like for those wide screens, do some sort of 2 column layout, maybe like a 2/3 and a 1/3. But then when you do get smaller, you're going to want to consider how that stacks and in what order does that stack.
Yeah, and
So
that's
let's run with it for now since
is that bad practice, Ryan, to like reflow the document like that? Is that because like that's something I do as a developer, but in terms of like the more appropriate way and contemporary way to design a site, is that intended, or is the idea to make everything just responsive completely and not have sort of like this adaptation to the viewport?
I think it's fine to reflow based on viewport size.
Okay, cool.
Um, some designers might disagree, but a lot of the designers I work with do that exact thing.
And
We
so
can
do
always
you?
come back and change this later if we don't like it too.
Okay, cool. Do you add rulers? Like, how do you go about enforcing that max width? Do you just set something to be the size of whatever your max width is? So, like, say we do 900 or something like that, 903.
There's a number of ways we could do it. This way works just fine.
Okay, cool.
And then you could actually use that alignment tool on the top right to get that perfect center in one click.
And then these actually need to be, yeah, okay. Something like that.
So yeah, it kind of overlapped them because they weren't in a group, but it looks like you fixed it by hand. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't think they were exactly the same size. So I'll do that just for representation, but it's a little rough. And then I guess this would also need to come in as well. And these guys.
So let's label these boxes after you've fixed this alignment.
Yeah, we'll do. Cool. Yeah, so I sort of like what you said, the idea of like a 1/3, 2/3. I actually didn't really think of that. That might be a good use case for grid too. So let's do, I think this would be like latest articles. And then we would have a feed there. And then I would imagine that also this trick you taught me with the auto resize, you're the king of Figma. This is amazing. I feel like I'm using a different program now.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. So this would be like latest streams, videos, whatever we want to call them. And both of those would be like feeds.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. Okay, so that takes care of the bio blurb, the article, the YouTube. Then I have a tips feed. So that's a good question. Maybe it's like, maybe the latest article should be its own full width, and then we should actually do this split layout with the tips in the videos as opposed to the articles in the videos. So then
Let's do it. I'm down.
Yeah, let's do this. So let's bring all this down here. Let's bring these down with it.
Nikki recommends using character units for width, which is a pretty
Ooh.
cool idea. I'm not doing that personally, but it is great for people who change the default font size.
Yeah, no, all those characters are like, that's definitely something. I know at Fauna right now, I see rems and ems used quite a bit in our code base, but I am not really as well versed in that as I should be. Most of the places I worked, probably bad practice thus far was to do hard coded pixel units. So I'm open to suggestions like that. That's a good note, Nikki. I appreciate that. So we do a little something like this, maybe. And here's another. So Ryan has all the advanced Figma tricks, but one of my favorite things here in Figma is that if you select a layer and you hold Alt or Option, you can highlight other elements and see how far they are away. So it makes it really easy for spacing. Like you can use these alignment tools that Ryan was talking about, but sometimes I just do something like this. Like I know this is 27 and this is 26, so I'll just bump it down one just to make it even. Just
Absolutely.
that's my hot tip for the day.
Ryan and I were talking before this when we were preparing and mentioning how we wish OBS had that functionality.
Yes, yes, that would be. If anybody from OBS is watching, which I doubt they are, that's a official feature ask from two Ryans at once.
It makes it even more important that they get it fixed. All right, so we've got a good start to our content wireframe here. We're kind of running out of room. So if you select the frame, looks like you're maybe already going for that. Select the frame in the top left, click on desktop one, and you can kind of drag it down. Let's give ourselves some room to work with. So the latest article section, yes, it's probably in the right position, but it looks a little small. I'd probably bump the size up, the height of that a bit.
Yeah, totally. And then I'll bring these down to where they belong. Latest articles, latest streams. Yep. Hey, Sayugi, thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. That's the first time I've seen my own party corgi alert. So
I like it.
Pretty excited about that. And Brian, I in terms of like vertical horizontal rhythms, do you have preferences? Like I've worked with designers who prefer to work on like multiples of 4, multiples of 8. Do you have any sort of like hard rules or preferred rules when it comes to that?
So I don't normally work with a base multiple or a grid. I don't really have any good reasoning behind why I don't do that. I just haven't really felt the need. That being said, I have worked with designs or implemented designs made by designers who follow that base 4 or base 8 and haven't had many issues. So yeah, I don't have the best answer for you there.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering. I wasn't sure if that was just the designers I've experienced or if that's sort of like a general designer preference, but I don't know. I used to do multiples of 5 or 10, and I do find that 2 pixels here or there really actually does make things look a lot different, which is, as a dev, you're thinking just trying to get things on the page and then fine tune at some point when you work with the designers. But just thinking that way, I find that when I do multiples 4 or 8, I find the designers like them the first time around more often than they did when I did multiples of 10. So
interesting. There probably is some research and reasoning behind why that is. I don't know what that is at the moment. JCH says, I used an 11 pixel margin today and it felt weird, but it looked great. So yeah, ship it. Go with it.
Hey, why not, right? Number 1 twice. So yeah, we have the bio blurb, we have the articles, we have the feed in terms of tips and streams, which I think is good. And then the only other thing I really was planning on doing is this uses page. But like I said, that's linked up here in the nav. I don't think I need anything like that on the home page. The only thing I don't think we have represented so far in my sort of like basic notes here is my social media icons.
Yeah, good point.
Is that Prince? I think I see Prince in the chat.
That is Prince. Good to see you, Prince.
God, he really is a prince. Like, what a guy that is.
Seconded.
Giving notes on articles, all sorts of stuff. What a good guy. Okay, Ryan.
So I agree that the uses page doesn't really need to be on the home. You do have it up there in the main nav. I think that's good enough. But the social links, those are definitely important. We could add a footer for that. We do a footer section.
Yeah. Do you like? Let me take a. I'm gonna go back to inspiration. I keep going to the browser, but I gotta learn that this is what we're doing. Yeah. So it looks like Kent has them at the bottom. I would think that my first thought was like maybe they should go at the top. And I see Chris does have his at the top. So like, let me actually check out this dope site. Oh, I just spelled it wrong. Sorry, Ryan.
I actually made or bought another domain, rw.code, to make it easier because it's a little mouthful. So yeah, I have mine at the top, inspired by Chris's site. but I also have mine at the bottom. If you look at my footer.
I'm gonna put this in my inspiration.
Nice.
I'm still downloading. Oh no, it's there. Cool. All right. Yeah. So you, like you said, you have your social media in the footer, which I like. Oh, and then you have it in your bio blurb. Yeah, I like that. I like the combination of the two. I think that's a good idea. Because I feel like it would just be lost in a footer by itself. Like if I just did this.
True. Yeah. And if someone's coming here to try and figure out, hey, where can I follow Ryan Harris around the internet? They shouldn't have to scroll all the way to the bottom. So let's plan on including them in both. And then,
Cool.
like you're doing, block out a footer section.
Yeah, so this will be the footer. And I'll take this and just copy it. And I'll actually drag this down.
And Prince says he loves seeing them in both places, top and bottom. At least at the bottom, you can see them on any page. Yeah.
Yeah,
the footer we can definitely include at the bottom of your articles, bottom of your uses page.
Yeah, and that's actually something you and I had talked about prior to the stream was the blurb. I was trying to think of it. Right now, my blurb is off to the side here in the sidebar. And I have a separate about page, which requires you to reroute, which I don't like. So I think having the social media stuff in here in a blurb and in the footer, maybe I can build a component that gets used in both of these locations and as a footer for my blog posts.
I like it.
Cool.
Sounds good.
All right. So what how would you approach this next? Should we start, is it worth putting in like placeholder text to make it look sort of like a design, or is it's still too early for that because we're still sort of like structuring everything?
Good question. I'd probably start working a little bit on look and feel now, and then kind of do some broad strokes applying that look and feel.
Gotcha.
I tend to start with typography and like picking a font, and maybe starting with the logo, which is your name in this case. Nikki wants us to do colors.
He sure does. Yeah.
We will definitely get there. We can get there on this stream. Let's do a little bit of type work.
Cool.
Do you have any fonts in mind? If not, I can give us some inspiration.
Yeah, no, I'd love some suggestions. When I worked at Rutgers a couple years back, I worked with some students who were graphic designers, and they gave me basically their TLDR of how to choose fonts, and I lost that note. And it was all about like how to use sans serif and when not to use it, and some of their favorite fonts. So I have a couple I know I like. I really like, obviously, Roboto. I think that's pretty widely used. I think the other one is called Railway, I think, which used to be pretty popular right here.
I've heard of that, yeah.
I am a fan of Helvetica, specifically Helvetica New. I think is a really nice font. And I know like Verdana, I think, is one of the other ones I've used quite frequently.
Verdana, old school. Yeah, that losing that note is kind of rough. I kind of want to read that note. There's Railway. I see it in your list there. Yeah. I also saw Ropa Sans, which is one I've used before. So I kind of have a little font kit that, like some go-to fonts that I always tend to lean towards. Okay. But before I had that, I would just Google like what are the best sans serif fonts on Google Fonts. And so I'm just going to link one of the articles that I found when I Googled that in chat. I don't endorse this site in any way. It was kind of one of the top Google hits. Right. But it has some good picks.
I really need to open chat again in a second, don't I? Oh, cool. So, the best 10 Google fonts.
Hey, David.
All right, here I go. I'm going to do this on stream, Ryan. I feel like I'm missing out.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. Get that chat up there.
Let me do it in Firefox. Actually, no. I'm gonna need to log in no matter what. This is not good. I'm not authenticated to LastPass. Things are going wrong.
It's all good. We're doing it live.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I actually, in my previous career, I worked on a comedy show that was sort of like The Daily Show, but it was online, and it was a small company up in Maine, and we called it Doing It Live. Just give me 1 second. I'm doing this all off on my private screen since I don't have a private scene set up yet, but we will get there. We will, I promise.
Yeah, I never know what to call people when I know their real name, but then they also have a pseudonym. But I'll just call you Robertables when I know their real name, but then they also have a
Roberto. Yeah, I was actually on Chef Brent's stream a little earlier, hanging out, and he was calling him Robertables, which is not really how I was thinking it was pronounced. I thought it was Robert Tables.
I'm not sure what's canon. What is the canonical Robertable way?
I don't know. Okay, I got the stream up, stream chat up. We're good to go. Sorry about the delay, everybody. All right, Ryan. So this article you were talking about 10 best Google fonts in 2019.
Yeah, so I just use this as a starting point. Like, where should I be looking? What stands out to me as aesthetically pleasing? What fonts are popular? What are just because something's popular doesn't mean you should use it, but there probably is a reason that it's being used. So you could just pick a few here that maybe you don't have, or maybe that you want to play with. Now, it doesn't have to be the one right now, just a couple that we can experiment around.
Yeah,
and then go over to Google Fonts and grab them.
In terms of like display fonts or sort of like header versus body, is the rule of thumb sort of you want to use a sans serif for these headers and use a serif for like paragraph blocks of text? Is that correct? That's sort of like my understanding as a very non-designer.
I don't think there is a rule of thumb that can apply across the board. It really depends on the content and the look and feel that you're going for. I've seen it both ways. I've seen it where the body text is a sans serif and the headers are serif. That kind of gives a more elegant, professional feel. I've seen, like, my site, for example, is the same font for headers and for body text.
Oh, really?
And then I've also seen something like, I think Medium might have a sans serif as the header font, and then the body text of the blog posts themselves are serif.
Yeah, that's cool.
I do want to answer the one question in chat. Sayugi asked, how do you take a full shot of a website? So there's a couple ways we could do this. There's a way to do it built into Chrome.
Yep. And that would
in the inspector.
Yeah, so I actually just learned this, Sayugi, myself. I know you open the inspector or the DevTools, and there is somewhere in here a menu that allows you to do it, and that's how I used to do it. And I forget where that is off the top of my head, but today I learned from Ryan Warner that Command, Shift, and P opens this like command palette in the DevTools, sort of like a la VS Code. And if you start typing screenshot, capture full screenshot will capture the entire document, even the stuff above, like out of your viewport. So if you're scrolled midway, you'll see all the way up to the header and all the way down to the footer. And
as Nikki points out, in Firefox, you can do it in a slightly different way. And you mentioned browser plugins. There are also Chrome extensions that can help you do this in a single click. But I kind of figure, if it's built in, why not use the built-in? But there's no wrong way to do it. It looks like Robertables is, though, one of the 10,000 today. Maybe learning something new.
Yes. It's always nice when Robert Tables comes into your stream and is learning something, because usually I'm in his stream and I'm learning something. So it's nice to flip the script. So for the header here, Ryan, I just tried Railway and Oswald. And
okay.
I like both.
So before we pick one, what I like to do is kind of similar to how we started off by kind of throwing the puzzle pieces onto the frame. So what we could do is make a different frame.
Yes. Okay, cool. So we're gonna make a frame, and you're just doesn't matter what size. We're just dumping out like
Exactly.
versions of
Doesn't
this.
matter what size. Yep. So we're gonna have, you're gonna write your name 3, 4, 5 times, however many different fonts you'd like to test out. I would encourage you to do more than two. And if we need to go to Google Fonts and download, I think that's worthwhile.
Oswald. Cool. Railway Oswald. I think one of the other ones I liked was this Open Sans. Oh, Montserrat I actually like as well.
It's a great choice. I also like that one.
I think it's actually surprising. Like Montserrat. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, Figma I find has a lot of fonts in it. It's either or I have installed a lot of fonts on my system, and
It's possible you already had them. Yeah.
Let's see. The other one I liked was, yeah, I think it was this Open Sans is what I liked.
That's correct, Robert. Nothing we've done thus far is Figma specific. I'm not sure we'll get to any Figma specific things today. It should all be able to be done in Sketch or Affinity, even Photoshop.
Yeah, and Ryan, when did you? Because I picked up Figma probably maybe a year ago when I was working with a lot of designers that used Sketch, and I didn't want to pay for it, but I also wanted to be able to start like wireframing, sort of what we're doing right now, my own projects. How long have you been in Figma? Because I find it to be it's a really good product. When I was looking for jobs, I was hoping that they would hire someone or look to hire someone with my skill set, but they need more like, I think it was more C++ dev. So
Yeah, so I started in Photoshop way back when I was in college, and that was like around 2012 or so. And Photoshop is kind of overkill. It's not the right tool for the job. And then I switched to Sketch, and I was on Sketch for a while, maybe 5 or so years. I was using Sketch all the way since the beta, and it was kind of blew my mind. And then about a year ago, or probably around the same time that you started using Figma, I was introduced to it by some colleagues at work, and my mind was blown yet again in ways I didn't think possible, just because I had been such a Sketch fanboy for so long. But the collaboration tools, like us both being able to be in here, and like you can see my cursor now, and I can move things around, and then the comments is especially good for like working with clients. You can send them a link. There's the share button in the top right, that blue button there, and opens right in the browser.
Oh.
So those things combined kind of maybe a convert pretty quickly.
Is that because I know with Sketch, a lot of times designers I've worked with have had to upload stuff to InVision to be able to comment on it for people to look, for devs to look at that didn't have Sketch. But one of the things I love about Figma is that this application we're looking at right here, I believe, is an Electron app, and it runs just as smoothly in the web browser, which is sort of mind-blowing. I don't honestly know where you would begin, but the performance
I think they're using WebAssembly.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez. All right. Cool. Well, I mean, big Figma fan, so. But yeah, so I have 4 laid out here, Ryan. I have Railway, I have Oswald, I have Montserrat, and I have Open Sans.
Cool. So we could also play with font weights here if we wanted. Semi-bold, medium, bold. Just kind of see how they're looking. And if anything starts to stand out to you, let's take note of that.
So Chris Biscardi in the chat said that Figma runs their own JavaScript interpreter for plugins. Wow. Jeez.
Interesting.
Hey, and Chris also said Photoshop is the right tool for everything you're doing except what we're doing now. And I was going to ask if anybody in the chat has used Affinity Photo, because it's like a $50 alternative to Photoshop. And personally, I don't want to pay a subscription for something I don't use all the time. So if anybody in the chat has used it and likes it, let me know, because I'm very much considering just turning that into my design tool. when it comes to more Photoshoppy things. All right. I mean, I sort of like the heavy font weight here, Ryan. I don't know if I like going all the way to like the dark. I sort of like this like semi-bold, medium font weight where, we're emphasizing it a bit, but it's not shouting in your face. Like that feels a little heavy to me.
Sure.
Sort of like that. This semi-bold. This is actually already medium. If we bump it up. I think Oswald already at regular has what looks like a slightly heavier font weight than some of these others. So I don't know if we actually want to change that. It might be too much.
I think it's totally up to you. I don't think there's a right or wrong here. It's kind of like the aesthetic that you like.
Robert Tables just told me to go bold or go home. Well, Robert, I'm already at home, so I guess I have to go bold, my friend. Yeah, I like this medium. Like to me, this like where you start getting into this like almost chunky territory is like a little too far. Again, I know you want to create like this separation between weights and fonts and font sizes and like that sort of hierarchy. So I'm gonna go with something like a medium, and then as we go, maybe we'll find out that my personal preference isn't the proper choice based on what else we lay out on the page.
Sure. Cool. So now that you've had a chance to just play with these a little bit, let's pick one. And this doesn't have to be a commitment, long-term commitment. We can always change it anytime. But whichever one is kind of calling your name and my name, we should pick that one and just start implementing and see what happens.
Yeah. Do you in like a hot take, do any of these really like sort of tickle your fancy, so to speak?
I'm liking the bottom one and maybe Montserrat. But I probably shouldn't have said that because I don't want to bias your selection here.
No, it's actually funny. I think the two I was looking at were Railway and Open Sands as well. And since we both sort of identified that one, let's roll with that one to start, just because we both picked two different ones, but that was the only commonality.
Cool. Let's do it.
And so
this might be a good point to make a copy of our desktop one frame and just stuff it in our archive.
Copy, stuff it in our archive. And then, so you stuff it in here just sort of as like a reference for almost like...
I kind of think of it like a git commit. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I was just going to say. And then now what we can do is you're saying, since we've already archived that, it's okay for us to bring one of these over
destroy this, mess it up.
Cool. Yeah, and so these all have, I'm just going to do one quick thing. These all have like a 32 distance, so I don't know if that really matters, but visually it makes it a little, that gap was a little bit too big.
Because these blocks of color, these gray blocks might end up going away or resizing. I don't think it's a big deal if we tighten it up or not.
Cool.
I do think that your name is a little too big here, especially because it's probably going to be your H1 in that hero there is probably going to be the most important thing. The thing that you want the eyes drawn to first is like your mission statement or your hero statement. You know,
sort of like here, how Chris has his name is big and it's bold and emphasized above the navigation stuff. But yeah, like you said, the call out, not only the header, but the body text is actually larger than everything above it in the nav.
Exactly. And, if you go to like any startup page, maybe we should have brought some inspiration in there. Kenzie Dons is another good example.
How about this? I'll go to my company's website because...
Perfect. Let's see. Yeah. So your eyes kind of go, or my eye goes to the database built for serverless featuring native GraphQL. That's like the first thing I'm seeing.
Yeah. And I bet if we were to go to like a Netlify, they're probably doing the same thing. Yeah, absolutely. It's almost the exact same. Like if we were to put them up side by side.
And there's kind of a reason for this. It works.
Yeah. Yeah, so they both have, if we get rid of this banner, it's essentially the same thing. Branding, menu, hero image. They actually have a very similar...
It's actually very similar. It's so similar, yeah.
Yeah,
more
it's
similar than I expected.
I know that Sarah Drasner, I believe, built this animation here. That I think when you load the page, there's some nice SVG stuff going on. And I actually found out the other day that she may have done some work at Fauna a couple years ago. So I fangirled out for about an hour in our Slack. But yeah,
Cool. Maybe
what was that?
I was gonna say maybe that's why there's some similarity. Maybe she influenced both designs.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Somebody was on Twitter the other day saying that they would love to work with Sarah, and I was like, I feel like that's a given. I think everybody wants to work with Sarah. So yeah. To that point, though, like you said, this font is clearly too big. It might even need to be that small because it's still bigger than nav item, still emphasized, but this is where you're coming. Your eye is coming.
Yeah, it's starting to look better for sure.
And this actually this is like, it's interesting to think about it this way because I come from a film and sort of photography background, and we have there are a lot of rules in terms of cinematography and photography of how to lead somebody's eye somewhere. So this is doing essentially the same thing. It's just that in a film context, you have sort of, like, say this is your shot, and you have subject matter that would be like here. If you do something like this where you have what they call a leading line, any sort of visual in your image like this on a diagonal will, like research has shown, will take your eye here. You will always see this first. So it's interesting to see how that type of ontology crosses over into design.
Absolutely. And I can see it working right here. My eye is definitely going right towards that circle. And the line kind of through the dead space leads me there, keeps me there. And that's what we're doing here as well. I kind of think of design like telling a story in like what order and how you tell it. And it doesn't always have to be top to bottom, as we can see here. Like my eye kind of goes towards the hero and then maybe back towards the top, towards the navigation, and then maybe back down. It'd be interesting to do eye studies. But we are kind of getting a little sidetracked. How about we work on that hero?
Yeah, sure.
What kind of content do you want to put in that hero?
So the thing I see a lot is like, "Hi, I'm Ryan," which I don't know what I want to do. I sort of like this idea that we have. Like they sort of have a blurb. Like just these are sort of like if you're thinking in terms of pitching a movie, it's like the tagline.
Yep.
So for me, like my tagline involves three things. I'm just going to like write some text on here and then we can shape it. But essentially I'm a front end dev, right? I'm a community organizer in terms of the work I do with Dom in React Adelphia. And I'm a content creator in terms of I write articles and I stream. So those are like the three pieces I would like to get in there. Oh, hey, Eco, welcome to the stream. Prince, thank you so much for being a generous host. I appreciate that.
This is looking good to me. I like where this is headed.
Yeah, I don't know. I just brain dumped this thinking that would become a sentence, but maybe it doesn't need to be. Maybe it's just like something like that.
Let's run with it. And maybe we do want to make it a sentence later.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, as a placeholder, I think that's good. And also, like, we have the same effect as those other pages we were looking at. Yeah. And obviously, the layout and style can change. And then maybe, I mean, just as a placeholder, we do something like, this is where, like, my blurb would go in a smaller font? Or do you think I even need, I guess is a better question, an about blurb?
It could be an about blurb, like a couple sentences in a smaller font. We talked about before linking some socials here.
Yeah. Sort of like what actually I think you have on your site. And I actually like what you have going on here in terms of you wrote a little blurb about yourself, but the links are not necessarily icons, whereas down here they are. Because I feel like icons just jammed in here might not feel aesthetically the same.
Sure. Yeah.
JCH is in the chat saying put a big old picture of my face, which I'm trying to keep people on this page, not drive them away. So I don't know if I want to do that.
Oh, that's too funny. Yeah, Kent Dodds does a face picture, and it works well. I do
I mean, but
not.
look at that big smile. I mean, how can you not? That's a friendly looking guy. I'm just gonna put in a lorem ipsum blurb for now, just like a real small one. And Ryan, you can correct me here. My sister actually is into graphic design. She's a designer and sort of does some marketing type stuff. And I believe lorem ipsum, the idea is that you get to see all of the characters in the alphabet in the font, so it's more representative of what it'll look like other than if you type out sentences that have probably the same few sets of characters.
I'm not sure about that. One thing I did notice though is that there's like a common pattern of vowels versus consonants. That's nice, as opposed to just jamming the keyboard. I guess because it is a language, Latin.
Let's see.
So it looks a little bit more realistic. Yeah, diverse word lengths. It's a good point.
Let's see. What did I do?
Friendly looking guy. He'll rip your pull request to shreds. It's not real Latin. That's interesting. I didn't know that. It's like there's not actually Latin words. Like none of these words are actual words.
I don't think all. I thought some of them were real words, but maybe they're not.
Me too.
Put new users in front of a Vim terminal and ask them to exit. Robert, we're not trying to punish people here. We're trying to have a good time, not make people cry. Editing text.
Only way to navigate your new blog is through Vim commands.
Oh yeah, just close the window. Turn your computer off. Cool.
Okay.
So something like this, right? That looks okay. Or maybe these.
Yeah, I might play with the layout here a little bit.
I'm gonna archive
maybe that
this.
Could be. Sure, let's do it.
And then what I think, like you're saying, maybe this is. Hold on 1 second. We have another guest on the stream. My dog Banjo is down here somewhere, walking around.
I think I saw a tail.
Oh yeah? Hold on. Let me. Here, I'll do this real quick. Yo, Banjo.
Did the dog just text you? It was convenient timing.
Banjo, where are you at? You guys see him? There he is.
I see him.
He's doing his thing.
We do need a Banjo emote.
Actually, once I get, I'm gonna hook up my DSLR as a webcam in the future, and then this Logitech I'm using right now is gonna turn into the Banjo cam. So we'll always know what he's
Banjo cam.
Yeah, the text was not from him. He doesn't have a phone. He's not old enough yet. He doesn't have a job. He doesn't do anything, actually. He's just a lazy dog. Text was from my wife saying that he was standing outside of my office complaining, maybe doing a little whining. He's looking for.
So I like where this is headed. I don't think that the description text needs to be the full width of the container. I think it's okay to wrap that earlier than the headline or earlier than the container. So you could narrow that up a bit. Yeah. Maybe 2 lines is a good.
Yeah, I like that. And maybe this should not be 2 lines either. Maybe I should abbreviate that in some way. Maybe it's too much text.
I think it's okay for now. Maybe you're right. Maybe we can come back to that. But I do like where we're going here. It is kind of bothering me that it's not perfectly centered, the site in general.
Okay.
One quick way to fix that is to just click and drag and select everything, and then hold Command G to create a group around it, and then use the alignment tool on the top right to center horizontally.
Like that?
Boom. Nice.
Just so you know, Ryan, we have Prince is in the chat saying he needs you on his stream too. So it sounds like your social calendar is going to be booked up for the next couple months.
I'm down. I'm having a blast. This is so much fun. So yes, Prince. Have you even streamed yet? I don't know if I've caught any of your streams, but I would love to. Come on,
I think we're going to need to
let's make that happen.
collectively buy you a case of beer, whatever, scotch, whatever your thing is, kombucha.
Sounds
Cool.
good.
Cool. So now we have what looks like a real hero image. I mean, compared to the reference materials we've been looking at, like a Kent C. I help make people better. He sure does. And then he has his blog going on. I don't really have any courses yet to sell. So next would be like this latest article section.
Yeah, let's work on that.
And so
Like,
in terms
what
of like,
is our H2 going to look like?
yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, if this is this would be the H1, I would imagine, right? Because it's the most present or prominent.
On this page, the hero would be the H1, yes.
Right,
And then the
okay.
latest articles would be the H2. On other pages, that might change. We'll see.
And in terms of, so would this be an H2? Like, as in, should this and these headers for these sections match? Would that be a good way to sort of like make visual cohesion in terms of the typography? Or would it be better to actually separate them visually by giving them a completely different font?
I think we should stick with one font for now. We could definitely differentiate the logo type or the word mark with a different font. For simplicity's sake, for right now, let's just keep it all the same typeface. And we can differentiate or like create some hierarchy with font size and font weight.
Okay, so this is Open Sans 24 semi-bold. This is Open Sans semi-bold 18. So I think if we go, to regular, it's a little too light. So maybe we need to go to semi-bold. Oh, Ryan Warner, you know what you need to do? You need to set up a Calendly for yourself.
Yeah, Calendly would be a great start. I want to like add some context around that though. Like, what are you booking my time for exactly? Maybe that could come as a second step.
You can
I
actually
want it branded.
Ooh. I think if you pay for Calendly, you can get branded. We use Calendly for Reactadelphia to schedule all of our speakers. And I have a personal one that I use to schedule like coffee chats or networking chats. And basically you can create a form and require certain fields. So if you want to have a chat with someone and you want them to describe sort of what they want to talk about, you can require the text area be filled out. Of course, they could just type in gibberish, but ideally they would actually write a little brief so that you could accept or dismiss.
Cool. I need to look into that. There's so much to do.
I know.
There's so many ideas.
It's great because I find that every time I think of something, I just take down a note and then it's like I'm going to stream that at some point. And I've been doing.
I like that.
Been doing up until this point the Friday evening just because it's the easiest for me. But I think at some point, I think we talked about this recently. I would like to probably expand to do maybe a second day or evening, just in pursuit of that affiliate status. Yeah.
So I'm going to interrupt you a little bit here. I noticed you're doing the same thing kind of over and over.
Yes.
I think this is a great time to introduce some linked styles. So if you click on one of your headers there, and then on the right side panel where it says text, there is an icon with 4 little dots.
Mm-hmm.
Click that. And
it says
you can create
text styles.
Yes, and then if you hit the plus there, we could name this. We could name this like H2. I like to namespace them to breakpoints. So I might do desktop/H2, knowing that it's probably going to change a little bit on mobile. And the slash is magic in Figma. It's going to group these together in the list. You'll see once we create it.
Okay. Oh, so then if we were like, it's basically allowing us to make like a category or bucket for the styles, so you can bucket them based on viewport?
Correct, exactly.
Cool.
So now you can apply this style to the latest tips and the latest streams. and now we have some consistency.
Oh, look at
And
that. That's dope.
yes,
Yes,
kind of like a
Prince.
class or something in
Prince, absolutely.
CSS.
Ryan is leveling up our workflows. This is great. And also, Robert, no, I am not an affiliate yet. Shooting for it. So, cool. Ryan.
Recently coming over from Mixer, so yeah, that's kind of partially why.
Yeah,
Gonna have to
definitely.
restart some of that.
Which is fine. I didn't have a big presence on either platform. For me, at this point, it's just about consistency of when we're streaming and creating content that maybe people actually get some value out of. So, but yeah, these tips you're giving us, I think this is going to be great. Anybody in the chat, anybody that watches the VOD is definitely gonna pick up some skills here.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Prince. I'm glad to help. I'm having a lot of fun here. All right. So what does an article component look like? It's gonna have a title probably, but
Yes.
is it gonna have a description? Is it gonna have an icon? Is it gonna have a little read more arrow or read more text? Let's start to explore what an article component might look like. Yeah, looking at inspiration is a great place to start.
Oh, thanks for the follow, Aaron O'Aaron. Appreciate that. Got the party corgi on my preview. Loving seeing that. Yeah, and
Welcome, Aaron.
So, Prince, look at this guy. Oh man, Prince, we're gonna have to get together in person at some point. You're up in New York. I'm down here in Philly. We're not far enough. And actually, Ryan Warner, you're right in between us, aren't you?
I am. You better invite me. I wanna come out
this.
to lunch.
It's a party at Ground Zero. Okay, cool. So one thing, Ryan, I think that I see sort of across all of these inspirations is I'm definitely going to need this latest articles, latest tips. They're going to need a text a link basically to all articles, something like this.
Yep.
So I'm just going to put that there. In terms of style, I would think that maybe it would want to be less prominent.
Right, but we're just getting the puzzle pieces out there and kind of massaging them, giving them a coat of paint as we go. So I think
don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it for now. We'll definitely revisit that. But once you know that this content needs to be there, just getting it on the page is like a great starting point to fixing it up.
And so it'd be something like that, I think. I don't think latest streams would necessarily need it.
Well, it could link to YouTube.
Oh, yeah. That's actually a good idea. You mean have just the latest streams text link or have one of these types of deals?
Either or. I mean, latest streams might not immediately be apparent that it links to YouTube. You could be view all on YouTube, or it could be a little YouTube icon.
Yeah, here, I'll just put a view all. I like that. That's a good idea. And then like you said, I guess we would be able to refine this. Obviously the positioning, the styling, all that stuff is harder than editing some copy.
Yeah, it looks a little jammed up right now, but that's okay.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and so in terms of the actual articles, I personally am not a big fan of this read more, read ... type of thing, which is why I don't have it on here. I just have the ellipses so that the text doesn't overflow. Mm-hmm. Personally, I don't know if I need a description either. I sort of prefer what you have here. I really like this just category. You have a date, so you know how recent it is, and a title. And as long as you're titling it properly, it should be pretty apparent what the content is.
Cool. Let's go with that then. One thing to note is that you have images. I do not. I don't know if you want to continue to include images in your blog posts, or if you find that valuable in the latest articles. One thing that I kind of think detracts from your blog list there with the images specifically is that they're not a cohesive style of image.
Yeah, totally. No,
so
I agree.
I don't know how much value they add.
Personally, I don't think they add too much value because, as you can tell, they're all very generic. The only thing that I ever really thought about with the images was trying to be representative and inclusive with the images I was using. to make sure it wasn't just always like a white guy like me at a computer.
Sure. Yeah.
Besides that, I don't really necessarily think they find or hold value. And in terms of what we're doing now with like this structure, I don't necessarily think they need to be there at all.
Okay, cool.
So I'm definitely more of the opinion like what you and Chris have going on, I think is probably what I'm looking for. But I think what you did that I really like, I think this looks really slick. Just how prominent the icon and the title like really stand out, and the date is there for reference. And I think it's important that people know how recent the content is. But like at first glance, you don't even see it, which is I think that's really nice.
Yeah, so I created some hierarchy here using color and font size and the icon as well. So yeah, let's go for something similar to that.
And are these the same fonts? Do you know? Do you remember if these are the same exact font?
Yeah, I'm using Jost for everything here.
Oh, cool.
Different weights, but it is the same typeface.
Yeah, no, you're definitely a pretty big separation or visual difference between the two for not using a different font. That's really cool. What's up, Jose?
Word.
Welcome to the chat. Yeah, Nikki, I'm also, using random Unsplash images. So that's part of the reason it's like I spend probably 5 to 10 minutes finding an image. Squish them follows, y'all. Thanks, Robert Tables. And so, Ryan, what I think I want to do, and this is sort of just going to be representative of what it looks like with an icon maybe. I just want to put a little square there, or circle, so that it's more apparent that this is its own thing. And then it would be like 5 ways to never use hooks.
So I think what we should do for the remainder of this stream is kind of finish what you're doing here with this article, snippet, or excerpt.
Okay.
And then maybe do some color exploration. And I think we're going to need a part 2.
How does that sound? What?
A part 2.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely a good call out. Also, thank you for the follows, everybody. And Nikki, yeah, like I'm writing a series on hooks, so I don't think you should never use them. But to Robert Table's point, I think, people are going to click on this one, right? Like, I'll just write an article called "Why Dan Abramov is Wrong," and just watch the hate roll in, And then if I did something like this, so today is March 6th, 2020. So sort of something like that, Ryan, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, this is coming along really nice. Maybe a little bit more white space in between the title and the date.
Yeah. Where'd the font thing go? Okay. Make this in size. Looks a little better. And then I want this to be sort of in line here. And then, And do you think this, like, what's your opinion in terms of, like, should it be even between the two, or should it be lined up with the sort of, like, title of the article?
I would line it up with the title because the date is so de-emphasized. Maybe if the title, like, wrapped to 2 lines, then I might do a vertical center.
Okay,
Goodbye,
so
Banjo.
Yeah, Banjo was whining. I think someone knocked on the door. So do you think that this is okay, sort of how it is, like lined up with the title?
Yeah, I like this.
Okay. I might actually give it a little more horizontal spacing. Like that? Maybe that's too much. How about that? I think that gives it a little more space. I think it was too tight before.
Yeah, I like this. I like the space you added. Title because it tells your eyes where to start. Yep,
Or
exactly,
as
Aaron.
or as Robert Table said, 10 ways your dog will professionally distract you. I mean, that's what he's here for. Let's be honest. He's not bringing any productivity to the table. He's just a squeezable, cuddly little guy. Loves people, loves food. That's about it.
All right, so I'm going to stop you there, actually. Let's create a component.
Oh, cool. So this, you're saying, could be its own reusable chunk?
Exactly. Just like in React or, whatever framework you're using, you can kind of think similarly here. This is going to be a component that has props, like the icon's going to change, title will change, but everything else is going to be the same. The layout, the font sizes are all going to be the same. So to create a component, there's a 4-diamond icon in the top center of Figma.
Create component?
Exactly.
Cool.
And in Sketch, this is called a symbol.
And is
They
this where you
function
can
pretty much the same.
and you can double click into it? Is that what it is? Nope.
To edit it, yes. And we can rename this like article excerpt or article card, something like that.
Yeah, I like that. And so now would you just duplicate this twice just to
Yes.
populate out okay. So we have another one.
Hey, Tony. Yeah, we're still going at it. We're probably wrapping up here in about 20 or so minutes, but we're making good progress.
Yeah.
We're having a good time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this has been super fun. Huge shout out to Ryan, obviously, for coming on and making this happen. This is awesome. And in terms of components, can you? So like this is the component; these are copies. But can you edit one component and not have it sort of like manipulate the original component?
So we can edit the master. You'll notice in the layers on the left side, the purple layers are component layers, and they have little icons next to them. The 4 filled in diamonds is the master component, and then
Cool.
the single purple diamond outline are instances of that component. So if you edit the master, it will update all of the instances, only if those instances don't have overrides. And overrides are things like colors and the content of the text. Those things can be overridden, but things like positioning and spacing cannot. So to demonstrate that, you can, your second article, maybe why Dan Abramov lied to your face. We could add that as your second article text to kind of get some variation here, make it look more realistic, so it's not just the same text.
Okay, cool. And it's not updating the. That's really awesome. But then, like you said,
Brutal. Yes, I stole that from David. Okay, you can't blame me. Yeah. So you can change the date too, and start to make this content look like it actually will look.
That's cool. Oh, and so you said like if say we wanted to update how the formatting of like the title text was. Say we wanted to make it light font. If we did it to one of these, like to the master, if I made this a light font, would it make all the other ones light fonts as well?
Yeah, let's try it.
Okay. Well, so I have this style that I'm gonna have to detach from. But let's make it light.
You could do that, or you
cool.
could try. Cool. Okay.
Thanks for the
I'm
follow,
watching
Parathon.
Hey, Parathon, welcome in.
Oh, cool. Yeah, okay. Dope. That makes a lot of sense. That's actually a really great tip that would help me organize. Like, this is a perfect use case for this.
Yes, absolutely.
I heard Chris Biscardi does not like party cats. He only likes party corgis. And apparently we publish every 2 days. So cool. No, that looks sweet.
Try to move one of the instances, like the title on why Chris hates party cats. Like if you double click in there and try and move the title, you can't like use the arrow keys. You can't reposition it. because you're on the instance. But if you go back to the master and try and move the title, change the white space, you'll notice that you can do that.
I think I have a duplicate here. Do I have two here?
You must check or expand that.
It looks like there's only one. This is the master component, and then I have two of these. I don't see any other instances of it.
It's a mystery.
All right, well, we'll just roll with it.
Yeah, let's roll with it for now. Okay.
Cool.
So there's definitely lots more to do. I do want to touch on color. I think it'll be a fun thing to do. Nikki requested it as well. You mentioned to me off stream that you like dark UI.
Yes, I do.
And you also included some inspiration, some color inspiration that we can take a look at.
Yes. Joel Hooks is actually named Instance of Joel Hook Factory. Do you believe him now? Oh, Chris, Disco Cat. That might be a nice, like, sort of peer for the party corgi. That might be great.
I mean, I'm into it. I'm a cat person. Nothing wrong with dogs. I just haven't really had one. But I have had cats like my whole life. Disco Cat sounds dope.
I had a cat when I was younger, and it dealt with my older sister when my parents had their first child, but then when me came along as the second child, it was like, So it did not like me and used to scratch me and attack me, and eventually it had to be put down. So that's probably why I'm a dog person.
Disco Cat is taken. Oh, I've seen this meme before. Yeah.
Here, I'll look it up on here so folks on the stream can see. Oh, I'm in Chrome, so usually I'm in Firefox and I have DuckDuckGo set as my default search engine, which I'm going to do right now. DuckDuckGo, just so I can do this so you can see it. This is my favorite thing. Hash commands, or bang commands they call it, so Disco Cat. GI for Google Images. Boom.
You're teaching me some new stuff here. I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh, yeah. This. And then if you do YT, you can do YouTube. A is Amazon, so Matrix Keyboard, like the one Chris just got. Boom.
Are these preset? Can you customize them? Can you add new ones?
Yeah, I believe you can add new ones. If you go to DuckDuckGo's site, I believe they have a list of them somewhere. Hash commands. Yeah, bang search shortcuts. So
that's cool.
They have predefined ones, but I believe you can also define your own. There's 13,000 of them, so I don't know if you're going to need to create another one, but you might need to. Cool. So in terms of the color, you said I sent you some reference material. What did I send you again?
The NASA posters had some really nice colors.
Yes, they did.
And then the Verge site was also a dark UI.
Yeah, they have
Chris's site is a dark UI. My site's a dark UI. So we can kind of start maybe with the NASA posters. I really like them.
Yeah, I like this. I think the colors in the Grand Tour stand out to me, and then the design itself and the sort of aesthetic of the Mars one. So it's sort of a combination of the two that I like.
Cool. Let's start with the color and then kind of play with the design next time.
Yeah, that's cool.
How about that text there, the Grand Tour, the bold text? Is that pure black or is that a little bit gray or saturated?
It looks completely black to me.
We could take a swatch of it. If you just make a rectangle, press R and drag out a rectangle, we can just move it off the poster.
Thanks for the follow, HAS. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but I appreciate the follow nonetheless. Cool. So we have a rectangle here, and then a little dropper tool? Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah. So the fill, you can click. Yeah, exactly. Dropper tool.
Oh, and so
we can see it's not quite black, and it is a little bit saturated. I actually really like this hue. We could just take this hex code exactly as a starting point and see what happens.
Use it for so do you do something sort of like Is your thought like, hey, I'm gonna do like a color palette along the side for reference?
I kind of do that after the fact. I would play with the color in context, and then as I notice things start to feel good, things that I like, I'll pull them out into a palette, and that's where that style guide page can come in. But we'll get there. This
Okay.
might be a good time to git commit.
Yes, yes. And what Ryan means by that is, if you're just joining us, we have a page here called Archive. And essentially, what we're doing as we're going is we're committing this to our repository, so we can see sort of how this evolves and reference back if there's anything we changed that we really liked. All
Exactly.
right, cool. All right, yeah, this. I mean, look at where we started versus where we are now. We haven't done
It's
a
cool to look at, isn't it?
ton. Yeah, it is. It's really cool, like a nice little progression timeline. Cool. So this color that we have, since it's like slightly black or off black, I almost feel like that might be a good color for the font.
Perhaps, but because of the dark UI that we're going for, I would probably start with it as the background of the whole blog,
Ooh. So sort of like,
which usually means light text.
what was that?
With a dark background, you're going to usually want light text on top of it.
Okay. Ah, okay. So you're saying like make that sort of like slightly off black be the background color, and then I guess we would need to take my name as well as the nav items and make them a lighter color, some sort, like maybe white.
Yeah, let's start with white and see how it looks, and then maybe play with some other colors that we could pull right from that NASA poster.
Yeah. So we're gonna do the same thing that you suggested, sort of like this. And it seems like there's no real white, it doesn't look like, but there's this sort of hue, sort of like a yellowish orange beigey type
Let's try it.
hue. And then there is also this one which seems a little bit lighter, which might be closer to white.
Either one works as a starting point. Let's just pick one. There's no wrong one to pick,
Cool.
and let's put it in for the text color
Yeah.
and see how it's coming.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's really the only way to do it, right? Is to actually see them side by side. So
Yeah.
these,
As a human, I struggle to like imagine it in my head, so I need to like see it. I need to do it in order to know. I
and
think
since
better
these,
designers than me could imagine it. Sorry, go ahead.
oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say, since I'm sort of thinking in the tricks you've taught us, there's these four nav items should share a style. So would they want to share a fill color here?
Yes, and the same way we created those text styles, we can also create color styles.
So same thing, sort of like a desktop.
Colors usually stay the same between breakpoints.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, good point. Thanks for the follow, Bearded Builder. Appreciate that. So
Welcome in, Bald Bearded Builder. I love your stream, by the way.
I'm going to call it tan. I don't know if that's like
That works.
the official color, and it would actually be this. Whoa, look at that. I don't know if you all saw that, but all of these now switch colors. And technically this one is actually using the color hard-coded, but what I should really do is link it. So now they're all with the same style.
Let's do one more section. Let's just do the hero. We could delete the gray background container and then bring that text into the color style as well. I think this will start to give us an idea of how it's going to look. The blocks of color were great for wireframing, but I think they kind of make it look a little busy as we're starting to polish it up.
Yeah, they definitely make it seem chunky. And also, like, because I was adding padding to the sections, like, this stuff isn't lined up. But I don't know if, like these items should be aligned equally, or if they should actually be indented to create some sort of, like, separation in terms of structure.
I like them aligned
Yeah.
for now. To the left, it creates like a consistent grid line.
And also, I believe it's Alan in the chat. I believe it. Yeah, Alan is asking if we've tried to use Adobe Color to get a color palette. And Alan, actually, I'm just going to pull it up for folks on the chat who are not aware. This is a really cool tool that Adobe has. It allows you to choose colors and then get sets of colors based on like monochromatic, triad, all these different sort of, I don't know what the technical term there would be, Ryan. But this is what I used to use actually for pretty much everything. And I found that I walked away unsatisfied because I personally don't know enough about how colors work with each other. So if you're someone who has a good sense in terms of color theory, I would imagine this would be like a super fun thing to play with. But if you're like me and you don't really have a good grasp on that, it's like, yeah, I can like find colors I like, but do they work together? Question mark.
Yeah, this is a really cool tool. I don't normally use it, but I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing that, Alan.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm came back. I really like how this looks. I'm thinking that the background might be a little too dark, but what we've done in terms of like this dark background with the light text, I think actually really stands out and is very much the aesthetic sort of what I was going for.
Awesome. That's good to hear. So yeah, we have a good starting point with color, but as you mentioned, maybe the background's a little too dark. And we don't have to stick with the exact hex colors, the hex values that we pulled from that inspiration poster. So we could actually change this a little bit if you want to open up the color palette. What I like to do is change the hex to hue, saturation, lightness.
And can I do that here in the little fill tool?
Yes. Yep. So if you click open the palette, and I'm watching this stream, so I'm probably a few seconds behind. And then where it says hex, that's a drop down there. It's like kind of in the middle of the window.
Oh, so it's an HSL drop down?
HSL, yeah, hue, saturation, lightness. And then if we like this hue, but we think it's too dark, we can just bump up the L or the lightness. And if you hold shift, you could bump by increments of 10 and with the arrow keys, or without shift, it's just going to be increments of 1.
Yeah, I mean, so it started here. I like this. It's like, it's still dark, but it has this tiny hue of purple.
Yeah, it's like a little purpley blue. I like it too. So let's try this out.
And so I guess I can go back to the hex and now I can copy and paste this. Excuse me?
Yes, exactly. That's what I do. I wish you could copy paste the whole HSL. Maybe you can with some sort of shortcut that I'm not aware of.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely find that in terms of one thing I often have to do is convert RGB to hex or vice versa. And it'd be nice to be able to just copy and paste those things.
Cool. So now we've got a little bit of a lighter color. We can see it in context here. Personally, I might darken it just a little bit. I think we maybe went a little too far to the light.
So maybe we do like a 20.
What did we start at? 10? Yes. Yeah, 20 is looking pretty good.
So 10 was here. 20's in
we could even do like 24 or something. The 30 definitely felt a little too light for me.
I think we could do 22 might be it's closer to that dark, like the slightly off black.
Cool. So when I'm kind of settling on colors, one thing I like to do is do a gut check for color contrast for accessibility reasons.
Yes, good call.
So we could use a Figma plugin called Stark. And to do plugins, we need to... I forget how to install plugins.
Yeah, so I just went into this. There was a plugin menu item up here, and so now it's asking if I want to browse on. And you said it's called Stark.
Yeah, STARK.
Cool.
And if you don't mind, I'm gonna throw a note of mine in chat.
Yeah, I've actually never used any Figma plugins before, so this is very interesting.
So here's my short list. This is not comprehensive. It is Figma focused, but there are some web color contrast tools in that list as well. And like I said, there's more out there that list does not include. These are just the ones I've tried, somewhat ranked from favorite to not favorite, but also not really.
No, this is great, and this is one of your dev notes, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, and this is exactly why I want to add that to my blog. Is like you took these notes. I'm sure people ask you all the time because you're like a great resource both as a dev and a designer. But it's like instead of having to like tell everybody the same thing, you can just point them here. That's I love that, and I definitely want to incorporate that too.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, so I have this plugin installed, and so now I'm back in my frame. How do I go about using it?
Good question. So what you'll do is select the text that you want to check the contrast of.
Okay.
Maybe we could go with the smallest text here, like the nav item.
Okay.
And then like you were doing with plugins, the plugin menu.
Check contrast.
Yep.
You can only run the contrast checker on 2 layers. So do I also need to highlight the background maybe?
Yeah, you might need to select the frame too. And if that doesn't work, we can pull it out into a different frame.
Oh, I got you. So
if you hold shift, does that let you?
So if I hold shift and then I highlight this, it highlights the one element, but you can only highlight the frame as it's like as in entirety. You can't highlight the frame and an element, it seems like.
Okay, so what if we make a rectangle instead?
Yeah, that's
a background color. And just put it all the way at the bottom in the layer palette. That way it'll make it easier. Maybe I should have had us use the other contrast checker that does work with frames, but that's okay.
So you're saying take this, select it with that, and then now we can run the check.
Yeah, you might need to overlap them. Let's see what happens.
Okay, so I'll do this, I'll do that, and then go to the plugins, go to check contrast. Ooh, wow, it looks like it's AAA. So that's like the cream of the crop, right? In terms of that's what you're shooting for when you're looking for accessibility color contrast.
Exactly. So we are 11:1 in terms of our contrast ratio, which passes even the strictest of thresholds, contrast thresholds. So we're good to go with this color combination.
Oh,
Sometimes I like to take a screenshot of this, especially if I'm working on a team, especially if I'm working with colors that might be kind of questionable. You don't have to though.
Well, maybe I'll just take it and put it in our archive, so we just have
that's
reference.
what I tend to do. Yep.
Just paste that in there. So we'll put it up here, and then we can look at that later if we need to confirm that was a good color choice.
Yep. Perfect.
Cool. And now I'm going to get rid of this rectangle. Dope. So yeah, this is like a really good start. I think we've done quite a bit, and again, super big shout out to Ryan Warner for joining me on the stream, for teaching me all these things, for being the generous guy he is with his time and his skill set. So I can't thank you enough.
You're very welcome, Ryan.
So yeah, so I think this might be a good place to leave off. And then like Ryan was saying, ooh, Digital Drummer, thank you for that follow at the end of the stream. I appreciate it. And like Ryan, like you said, I think we've sort of laid out the foundation here, and maybe what we do is we'll do a part 2 at some point, maybe the next week or two, based on your availability, where we can sort of like go through the rest of this view, at least this page, and I think that'll sort of set us up for success.
That sounds awesome. I would love to do that, and this was a blast. Thanks for having me. I'm going to throw some of my links in chat, a little self-promotion. Take the opportunity.
Please do. I'm going to pull these up.
I'm
going to pull these up on my screen too, so people can see them in the chat. If they're
perfect.
Not watching.
I stream on Twitch too. I also tweet. I'll link my Twitter.
Ooh, Ryan, I follow your typical UI, but I don't follow your personal. So watch. There we go. Big follow. Oh, I'm not logged in. Actually, I do. Maybe I do follow you. Maybe that's what it is.
Oh yeah, maybe because you're not logged in. It doesn't show.
Yeah. No, I follow you. And then so yeah, Ryan is on. He's on Twitch. He's also on online. He's on ryan.warner.codes, which I believe, Ryan, you said you have rw.codes as well.
Exactly, just a redirect, whatever it's easier to remember.
Cool. And then
I stream too. I tweet.
you're all over the place, man. You're on Dribble too, aren't you?
That is true. You can get there from my website.
Yeah, look at this. Dribble. If you're not familiar with Dribble and you're a dev like me, not a designer, like Dribble is a great place to go and just watch people just like show off their amazing skill set. I mean, like, this stuff looks really great, Ryan. I mean,
Thank you. And if anyone in the chat is on Dribble, I would love to follow you.
yeah. And then here, I'll just pull up Ryan's Twitter. He's Ryan Warner Codes. He's got that branding down. It's pretty much the same thing all across the platforms. Really good. And yeah, so if you need to reach out to Ryan, you can reach out to him on his site or on Twitter or on Dribble or on Twitch. You know where to find me. RyanHarris.dev. This is what my site looks like now. This is what it's going to look like at some point soon, thanks to Ryan. So thank you all for joining, and have a great weekend. Happy Friday. And Ryan, we'll get together soon and then schedule another follow-up one of these.
That sounds great.
All right. See y'all. Take it easy. Have a great weekend.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Bye.